Hello, my name is Kristen Schoenbeck, and I am the director for Harvest by Manjula Padmanabhan. Our play is a darkly comic and unsettling sci-fi parable of globalism and human values. It imagines a grisly pact between the wealthy and the impoverished in which desperate people can sell their body parts in return for food, shelter, and riches. Set in the imminent future where technological advances has left many behind and ransacking work has become routine, this play asks, how far would you go to survive? How much would you give up? It's a story about class struggle, questioning both the wonders of technology but also the distance it can create, alienating entire peoples. It scrutinizes the dangers of globalization, and it examines bodily autonomy and the differences, if any, between selling labor, body, or soul. It's a play about power, about submission, and the ultimate cost of oneself. These epic themes are explored on an intimate scale as we zoom in on the Prakash family. At the very outset of the play, we see the stark reality that successful familial relationships can only exist when there is financial security. They're locked in a loveless and artificial bonding that turns their entire world into a claustrophobic one-room tenement. A cage where they're surrounded by constant reminders of their socioeconomic status, and questions of survival reside in every corner of the room. Their wealth of knowledge and experiences are contained only inside these four walls. This nameless urban slum has become a breeding ground for donors, resources for the wealthy. Joblessness, desperation, and cynicism are the defining national sentiment. The other opposing force in this play are the receivers, the oppressive outside forces of the extremely wealthy, the kind of wealthy you can only dream about. This world is a mystery to us, far beyond our imagination, let alone our reach. Yet it's always there, like flickering shadows beyond the window of our small world. It is an imitation of what is believed to be perfect, without flaw, without disease, without human touch. It's intrinsically linked to our donor world as it can't survive without it. It is only when a multinational corporation invades the lives of the donors that we get a glimpse of this power and wealth. As the family's life becomes more and more comfortable, their relationships become more strained. We not only see technology overtaking what was once this simple family home, but we see the power of the wealthy Western world consume their very way of life. We've chosen to build upon Manjula's language with moments of movement from our ensemble, painting poetic metaphors on the stage, momentarily expanding our world beyond the experiences of the Prakash family. It is through these moments that we bear witness to the vicious cycle as the wealthy devour more and more of the poor. As the audience looks in on this intimate family drama, they become voyeurs, tourists of the aesthetics of poverty, commenting upon the white savior complex and lusting after the elements of the donor world. While the action of our play is driven by Om and his brother Jitu, our moral compass is Om's wife Jaya, our dreamer and the voice of resistance. She speaks through these fractured relationships with the utmost responsibility towards herself. She is not resigned to submit to her fate. And coming face to face with her receiver, Jaya steps outside of those four walls, isolated from all she knows, and claims her body, her soul, and her dignity as her own. She sets her terms and conditions. Today, with the ever-expanding wealth gap, where our news flips from the surging unemployment rates to billionaires on holiday in outer space, where organs are literally being harvested overseas and shipped and sold here in the United States. This play hits eerily close to home. In our not-so-distant future, where the destitute are openly preyed upon by those who have amassed everything, where human values have been degraded beyond redemption, we must ask ourselves, what is the cost? What parts of ourselves will we give up? For it is the inherent human qualities that keep our world afloat.
Hi, My name is Caroline Deschelle, and I'm the scenic designer for Harvest. I will be showing you some digital renderings of mine that include costumes drawn by our costume designer, Amanda Vanderbilt. Something that fascinated me about the script is the layers contained within it. Not only is the play a sci fi dystopian future far too similar to our own reality, but it's a family drama as well, and a story of a woman finding her own power within that. I chose to represent the layers within the script with a set that spirals inwards in terms of acting areas. This starts with the audience, who's raised up so that they may look down on the action of the play, much like observers in an old fashioned operating theater. This sets up the audience to feel a sense of voyeurism, and as we're putting this production in a threat space, it becomes a cage of sorts so that they enclose the action. The next layer is a no man's land, where ensemble characters may spy on the action within the apartment. This separates the major playing space from the audience and acts for a sort of distancing effect. Here we see guards come and go, people gather nosily, and we get a sense of the population outside of our central characters. The main layer and playing space is the inside of the apartment itself. I wanted to emphasize the feeling that the characters cannot really escape their situation and also create a boiling point of tension with a cramped single room so that the main characters don't have any option but to deal with each other. To do this, I designed knee walls made of lath and plaster around most of the perimeter of the apartment. This both builds that tension and adds to the feeling of voyeurism. The audience is literally looking through the apartment walls and into the characters' lives. There is a window of hope shown by an actual window that Jaya often looks through, trying to catch a glimpse of the sun or the world outside of the tiny space she's trapped in. Hanging pieces that look like the interior of other apartments are suspended over the audience in no man's land. These bits of wall suggest that the characters within our story are not the only ones experiencing these same problems. Class struggles, family tensions, poverty, and organ harvesting are a widespread problem in the world of this play. By having these hanging pieces, I hope to remind the audience of the nameless and unseen characters who are also experiencing this, as well as immerse and surround them in this world, if only for a few hours. In my research, I was fascinated by the colors of poverty and city life. In slums all over the world, there are the expected neutrals and grays, but there are also many bright colors. My research images were heavy on tones of blue, red, and yellow, and I wanted to bring these primary colors onto the stage. They're saturate colors that have been muted by time and wear rather than neglect. The space is cramped but comfortable, filled with items on shelves and in trunks that make up the beds. With 4 people living in a one-room space, the characters have really had to become creative with their storage. Things are important to them, since they never know when they'll be able to replace something. There is one scene in the play that doesn't take place strictly within the confines of the apartment. Jaya and Jitu go up onto the roof for a bit of privacy. This moment is a breath of fresh air in the script. It's a break in the tension of the apartment, a feeling of relief. I still wanted to keep Jaya within the enclosed space, though, and add yet another layer to the set. To do this, I have the rooftop rise up out of the stage deck while Jaya and Jitu stand on it. It doesn't go up very far, only about 4 feet, but it's enough to separate them from the main space and add a sense of danger. As the rooftop platform climbs up into the sky, clotheslines, cables, and other wires lower to meet it. With this, we feel a sort of magical moment as we rise up high onto the roof overlooking the crowded city. When we return to the apartment, things are really different. The space has been cleaned out of all of the family's belongings, and their familiar items are replaced with shiny new things. The texture of the play was something that really interested me. There's a textural difference between the familiar world of the before and this new world of the after. The new items have a certain smooth lack of texture that feels anachronistic to the environment. They're too clean, too white and gleaming, and too modern. If you were to run your fingernail down the side of them, you wouldn't really feel any texture whatsoever. There's still a suggestion of what was there, though. A shadow of the items on the wall from where they'd sat for so long that the walls aged around them. The floor has rust stains where things used to be, and new pieces of furniture don't quite match up to the shape of what was once there. Through this, we're reminded of the world of the characters used to live in. It feels almost like the space longs for the simplicity and familiarity of what it used to be, rather than the shiny but harsh reality of our present.
Hi, my name is Amanda Vanderbilt, and I'm here to talk about the costume design. As with all of the design elements in this play, the costume design focuses on distinguishing our two worlds between the haves and the have-nots. The Prakash family is at the center of this play, and they have not. In our imagining of this play, they live in an unspecified urban slum. With the pervasive nature of Western fashion, the clothes of poverty around the world include things like jeans and out-of-date sportswear and discarded fast fashion items. It doesn't matter which country or culture, you will find these items in urban slums. In my research, I found lots of bright colors and bold patterns, but everything is covered with a layer of grime and worn at the edges. There is a chaos to the patterns and textures because they are chosen out of necessity, not necessarily out of style. Jaya here on the left side of the rendering, you can see she is the one in this play who is seeking connection to those around her and is not receiving it. She has more of a sense of personal style. Perhaps she's braided herself some bracelets or jewelry. She's tied her shirt up to show her sensuality. She's desiring to be seen and to have connection with those around her and is not having it. She even uses her mending as a personal expression. At the beginning of the play, we'll have her mending a pair of jeans, and then at the end of the play, she'll be wearing those jeans, and we'll see, like in this research image here in the center, that mending, which is a necessity, is also her way of expressing herself and showing her individuality. Ma and Om here in the center are wearing kind of mismatched, ill-fit, rumpled, and dirty clothing. Jitu on the right, he takes more agency than the rest of the family. He has chosen to go out and use his body as his ticket to freedom, and therefore he shows off his body. He has more pride and more deliberate actions in choosing his clothing and representing himself and his body and his sensuality. His body is his own, and so is his style. As the family gains wealth, they then have access to things of wealthy people, but it's the things that you would see perhaps on Instagram influencers or on a red carpet, things that look expensive and frivolous, but in the context of their tiny apartment and on them who do not have the personal grooming or the fit bodies, these items like feather boas and big brightly colored hats and light up shoes and things like that look out of place and cheap on the family. In contrast with the family, we have our world of the 1%. It's sleek, it's clean, it's the white Western world who can buy immortality. It's not just about the clothes, but the health and fitness of the bodies wearing them. We imagine Ginny as being played by Gwyneth Paltrow, who is the quintessential rich white lady. The guards of Interplanta are in outfits that showcase their bodies and their athleticism. The agents look like futuristic delivery people. Both the guards and agents have detailing of high-vis, reflective lines and things that will light up brightly in the room. It gives a sense of technology and light without having actual light elements in the costumes. Both the guards and the agents have clear plastic face shields, further separating themselves from the world of the slum, not wanting to breathe the same air as the family. And G2, we see, loses his agency after his eyes are taken from him. They are replaced with these cyborg elements, and he no longer has the clothes that make him unique to himself. And our ensemble that we are adding that surround this world begin in the world of the family, but throughout the play, they will become and fill in as other interplanta service agents until Jaya is the only remaining person in the world of our slum.
Hi, my name is Erica Lauren Mahomes, and I am the lighting designer for our production of Harvest. Harvest is, at its essence, a family drama set in a hostile world that treats its lower classes as consumable and therefore ultimately disposable. So most of the imagery that I worked from was images of the human body alongside trash or fading away as pieces of them are being taken for this hidden upper class. We were very intrigued by the idea of the audience being lit throughout the performance in a style reminiscent of the late 1800s, early 1900s operating theaters, where spectators would view surgeries and autopsies. The character of Ginny is a voyeur, watching the family like toys in a dollhouse or a human fishbowl, as she mentions in the play. This awareness of viewing and also being viewed places the audience in a position alongside Ginny and asks them to consider their place in this world and also their position in their everyday lives. So the beginning of the show opens with an overwhelming heat, vibrance, and a warm golden glow to the world. We see this as Jaya looks out through her window towards the sky, which is the central visual of the play. We as the audience go with Jaya on this journey. We take this journey with her, viewing the world through this window. So she goes from this world of vibrant gold hues as they fade and sputter out and are replaced with a cold, cruel light as she discovers that the world is much more violent and vicious than she ever imagined that it could be. I also want to play with the texture of the cracked plaster and the floating wall pieces so that the texture shifts with the world as the family shifts from a world of warmth and natural environment to a much more cold and electric living space. These walls also provide opportunities for the ensemble to gather behind them and be glimpsed as a series of ever-present outside forces looking to encroach on the Prakash family, clawing at everything they have. So the peak of Act 1 is the only time we actually get to leave the apartment and we go to the rooftop where Jaya and G2 meet. It is a sweet, soft, sensual scene. So I pull a lot of imagery from the lavender and coral of the sky just after sunset, while also blending in the rich, vibrant electric lights of the city in a parallel of the tech that we'll later see as Ginny overtakes their lives. So on the rooftop scene, the light filters through hanging laundry as well as the broken pieces of plaster floating above the audience and allows G2 and Jaya the last moment of privacy that they'll get for the rest of the play. Technology overtakes what we see as once a simple family dwelling and transforms their space from humble to extravagant. This manifests in both high-tech gadgets and also the bright bubblegum pop lighting that Ginny surely chose so that she would have something pleasant to look at when she viewed her little fishbowl family. This new electric world washes out Jaya's window and she can no longer even have that little pleasure. The blues and pinks are too bright, too saturated, a shadow of what Jaya and G2's soft, sweet sunset rooftop moment was. And Ginny dominates the center of the space as the lights over the audience shift into a slightly greenish hue. As we near the climax of the play, Ginny is revealed to be an older man, older than comprehension, named Virgil. The bright bubblegum lights slam sharply into this cold blue and sickly green hue throughout the space. We see Jaya speaking to Virgil in one of the last confrontation of the play as the whole space is overtaken by this sickly green color. This is ultimately a story about class struggle and questions both the wonders of technology, but also the distance that it can create that alienates people. It also asks questions about bodily autonomy and the difference, or whether there are any at all, between selling labor, your body, and your soul. These are all questions that we are left with at the very end of the play as Jaya holds a piece of broken glass to her own throat and waits for Virgil to arrive. And we see her in the shadow of her window, the last thing that we see at the very end of the play, with this cold white light as the world has been revealed to be much darker and crueler than she ever could have imagined.